Dhamaka, Dhamaka.
Dhamaka!
My name is Lakhan.
जहाँ खड़े हो जाते हैं लाइन वहीं से शुरू होती है।
तुमने कभी किसी से प्यार किया?
Hi and welcome to a new episode of Khandaan Podcast. My name is Asim Bernie and I'm joined with my lovely co-host Amrita and Sujoy. Hey Amrita, hey Sujoy.
हे पाप की धरती फटी फटी और दो खानदानी निकले उधर से अमृता एंड सुजॉय but the voiceover is Asim's.
We are continuing our 80s Dhamaka series with Tridev this episode.
Yeah.
A movie that Sujoy watched a week ago and since then has been saying, Amrita, good luck recapping this movie.
Yeah, man. Seriously. But talking of 80s Dhamaka, like this movie is it represents both those words.
Yeah, it is the most dhamaka out of all dhamakas.
So you
I
guys
love
haven't
the
watched. You guys haven't watched Badass Ravi Kumar, but the whole time when Naseeruddin Shah's voiceover is going on in the background, like "Baap ki dharti fati," and all I could remember is in Badass Ravi Kumar. Every time Himesh Reshammiya, does something even the least bit swagalicious, the background goes badass, badass, badass.
Yeah.
And that is all I could think about
Yeah.
when I was watching this.
Because I saw the trailers of Badass Ravi Kumar and I was like, what 80s movies were like this? And then I watched Tridev. I was like, okay, Tridev was like this.
Yeah.
But now I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
Should we rebrand Khandaan to Tridev since we are literally Tridev?
I got worried for a second that we are going to have to watch only movies of Sunny Deol, Jackie Shroff, and Naseeruddin Shah. But we can probably include Madhuri Dixit in it. We can
There you
include
go.
Amrish Puri in it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let's get into Tridev. Amrita, your task that is at hand that I hope you can accomplish is, what is Tridev about?
Listen, I'm not even going to attempt to recap this thing. I'm just going to read you what IMDb says because it doesn't matter. Like the plot of this movie does not matter. Things happen in a sequence that we will discuss during
I don't know
this
even
show.
if they happen in a sequence. To be honest.
There is flashback, flash forwards, like the timey-wimey stuff.
But according to IMDb, when an exiled police officer, a bandit, and the son of a police commissioner, and honestly, like, two of these are correct descriptions. I'm not really sure if all of them are correct. But when an exiled police officer, a bandit, and the son of a police commissioner are framed by a smuggler, they join forces to teach him a lesson and prove their innocence.
This IMDb summary was written by Rajiv Rai because nobody could do it except him. Write something like, what is this movie about, Rajiv? Like, write it down.
Rajiv, what is this behavior?
So, Tridev, for people that don't know, came out in 1989, directed by Rajiv Rai. This movie, although maybe forgotten, was a massive hit. This was the third biggest hit of the year after Maine Pyar Kiya and Ram Lakhan. And it had a soundtrack that was, I mean, I don't even know, like people used to get obsessed with one song. Like, I don't think we have that anymore because the cycle of music and content is so quick.
Yeah.
That, it was so big. It was everywhere. Tirchi Topi Wale. You cannot comprehend how big this song was and how big it made the movie. It is a movie that I have not watched since 1989.
Yeah.
And watching it now was a trip. And I'm assuming you guys have not watched this movie since 1989, right?
No. I think, as you said, the music keeps it fresh in your mind, the memory of Tridev. But I don't think any of us, I watched it like sometime in the 90s on a VHS tape, because I didn't go to the cinema to watch this. I remember the whole Gajar ne kiya hai ishara, the three ladies dancing image, like seared into my brain, because Chitrahar used to play that a lot, and all of them, like I think the color combination of the three dresses and Madhuri and Sonam and Sangeeta Bijlani, so it's crazy. Yeah, it was iconic in the best meaning of the term. It was, yeah, as you said, this movie had things going for it, but going back to rewatch it was something else.
What are your memories of it, Amrita?
I just remember like the Topi Wale being played continuously. Like I just remember, like Sujoy said, you couldn't escape it. It was on TV. It was on
Not
loudspeakers.
just the song, like even just Yunus Pervez in the beginning of the song saying action, that bit, and then like Nasiruddin coming with like oh
Yeah.
that was just, I was like, oh my god, there's Mickey Mouse and this lion. It's the worst quality costume department ever in a Hindi movie, and they are like, "Ha, hum bhi dance karenge," and then just very questionable aesthetics of tribal dance routine going, and Saroj Khan giving her best. It's everything.
And it's so interesting to me that this was Naseeruddin Shah,
Mm.
because this was like, I mean, we'll talk about him later on, I guess, but this was such an unlikely person for this really hit song to be filmed on.
Yeah.
Kids today could never wrap their heads around it, like Naseeruddin Shah going oe oe with like Sonam. But it was a banger of a track, and I don't think,
Yeah.
like, my because I was very little when this movie came out, so I don't think we knew all the words necessarily, but we all knew the hook.
Mm-hmm.
We knew oe oe because that was easy to say.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
And
that's
also
all
because
we
it was stolen from Gloria Estefan.
yes, of course. But like back then, you didn't really have anything to tell you that this was taken, unless you were listening to the Miami Sound Machine or something. You didn't know that this was taken from them. So
Yeah.
you just were just like, wow, this is a
Like
really
Kalyanji-Anandji earned a lot of goodwill and money from their
yes.
previous soundtracks, and then they sent their son Viju Shah abroad, and he brought all these samples back, like Papa Yes Suno, and then it became the Tridev soundtrack basically.
That's literally it. Your uncle bringing like a cassette that he was listening to in the States, and like just repeating the whole thing. Also, I mean, you call it's a Kalyanji-Anandji soundtrack, but this is a Viju Shah
Yeah, it
soundtrack.
is a
This is
Viju
like,
Shah sound.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is just putting their name on top of it. Like it has the overt synth usage, and it has the overt plagiarism. It has to be
Yeah.
Viju Shah that can do it.
Even when every single time we see Amrish Puri's character, there's that.
So good.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah. And I love that, they did steal the OAOA, but then they really use it. They use it like 7 times in different versions, reprise. Yeah, we'll get into all of that. I have so many thoughts. Like already, we've completely like unhinged ourselves from any
Yeah.
structure to this podcast. Yes. So let's try to break this
Let's
movie down.
start with the beginning, because the beginning is like unlike anything else that I've seen in a very
Yes.
long time. Because it starts with Dalip Tahil like leering out of a
Yeah.
boat. Right?
In Rambo outfit.
Randomly, he just like emerges from these boxes, and then he is just sort of like staring intensely at the shoreline. And on the shoreline are those two guys whose names I can never remember. But let's call them Tweedledum and Tweedledee, who are playing
Tate Sapru
brothers.
and Dan Nonoa.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's who they are.
How do you not know these
Yeah,
names?
they have 2 sons. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Goga and Ranga.
that's who. That's who. And
Because Bhujang's naming sequence of his own sons. Goga and Ranga.
And both of them are looking at Dalip Tahil as if they want to screw him like really bad.
Oh
They're just
God.
like, this is the culmination of all our desires, like coming to us on a boat. And
My
then they both,
can I just say, my wife did not watch this movie. She just came in the room to pick up like a glass and then leave. And she looked at them and she said, "Those two look like rapists."
Yeah.
Because
That's called 80s character design.
yes.
because at the moment you forgot the moment where they like Dilip Tahil coming on a boat and they have a flashlight. And I was thinking,
Yes.
nobody should sell these man flashlights. If they buy a flashlight, the shopkeeper should call the cops immediately. These men are up to no good.
And the thing is, like, they're doing the flashlight as a signal, but the way they're doing it is so creepy.
Yeah, I
The
thought my Izzat was in danger immediately.
They
I'm
were,
worried
they were,
for
they, they
the
were
develop-
sending really bad signals in Morse code. Like,
And then I don't know which print you guys saw, but my print, like, they just like they're clearly having a conversation with Dilip Dahil after he like reaches the shore. But in my version, they just overlaid it with like Naseeruddin Shah.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't hear them talk either. It was just like, yeah. I thought it was like a vibe. They were like seeing this in like some Michael Mann movie, and they just wanted to copy that.
It was it's epic. And then of course we see Bujang.
yeah.
Which,
It's just, like the moment you see Dalit Tahil, who would think that you could cast him as Don?
I know.
And he's playing a Angrez. Somebody calls him Angrezi Bhadave later on. So clearly he is playing some sort of white man. We don't know which white man he is, but yeah,
It's not somebody. It is Sunny Deol.
it is Sunny Deol, obviously.
In his Punjabi accent, he's like Angrezi Bhadve.
So we have two Angrezi Bhadves. We have him, Dalip Tahil, and we later on have also Gavin Packard that comes in. And he's also part of this international conglomerate that wants to destroy India, basically, right?
Sangeeta Bijlani has to arrange for entertainment for this.
No. Keep a structure, man. We're back we're at the start here. We cannot go there.
Sorry. I got too excited.
Amrita, get us back on track. Where are we here? Flashlights.
So the funniest thing about Bujang, who's played by Amrish Puri, is that he actually has a very good 80s villain name. His name is Bhairo, as we find out later.
Bhairavnath. Daku Bhairavnath.
But Bhujang is like a code switcher. So like when he's in the Gaon, he's Bhairo. But when he's plotting international destruction of India, he's like Bhujang.
Yeah.
And I am like, why didn't you go for Mogambo or something? What? Like white people can't even pronounce Bhujang. Like why would you go?
Yeah,
for
why that name? I couldn't understand it either. I was like, it's hilarious.
So this is like the good old time. I don't know why, but in the 80s there were a lot of like people of no known ethnicity or nationality who were trying to destroy India. And it was some
I
sort
miss
of
those
like
times.
weird.
Because now I feel it's become very specific who's destroying India, and I don't know how I feel about that.
But in movies like Tridev or Mr. India, etc., it's always like Amrish Puri, and he could be like Dr. Fu Manchu, or he could be Genghis Khan, like he could be like anybody, right? And he's just like India ko barbaad karenge, and why is never explained. Like there's no actual, oh, this is why we hate India. No, hum karenge.
It's vibe-based destruction.
Yes, and there's always some sort of like smuggling aspect to it. It took me, I would say, like into my teens before I understood how smuggling could actually affect a country. Because as a child, I was like, but how? How are you like destroying? There are
Uh,
some very complex economics happening. Like
yeah.
we will destroy India through like complex international economic systems. And I am like, okay. So that is what is happening.
Okay, yeah.
And then Amrita gave up.
I will pause here.
No, but it's also interesting because the reveal that he was a Daku in Naseeruddin Shah's
Flashback.
village
Mhm.
comes much, much later, that he had a different name and he was this
Yeah.
other person. And I was like, man, the kind of career progression from Daku to international crime lord is actually quite good. Like, I think it's a track that a lot of people would envy working in
Mhm.
corporate at the moment, because you're like,
Yeah.
I'm just stuck in the same role. But look at, Bhujang. You went from Bero to Bhujang within years.
I
It
mean,
reminds me of
this
a
movie.
meme. Sorry, it reminds me of a meme that I saw today. Somebody crying basically, and the text said, "Me going to my 9 to 5 job when I see people on OnlyFans buying their fifth Ferrari."
No, but I think like this is an amazing example of the story being written on set, right? This entire
Mm.
movie.
Yeah.
Because it literally is like, here are our characters. They are now backed into a corner. Where do they go? I will just put something here.
Yeah.
There
Right.
is
I
no.
think at some point, like, a spoiler alert, at the intermission, at the interval, Sunny Deol is killed, right? And then you have the Paap Ki Dharti Phati after the interval when the hand comes out and he's revealed as he's still alive. But at the interval level, you're like, hero mar gaya. Where do you go from here? And I was like, I think there was a lot of pressure on Rajiv Rai to deliver after that.
Which is funny because I don't think of this as a Sunny Deol film at all. Like Sunny Deol
Oh.
and Madhuri are technically the leads of this film, but I do not remember either one of them for this film. Like for me, it was always, as a child, it was a Sangeeta Bijlani Jackie Shroff film for me, because
Oh, wow.
Sangeeta Bijlani was just like so glamorous to me. Like we will talk about her later. And then on the second tier, it would be like Naseeruddin Shah, and not really Sonam, but Naseeruddin Shah film. And so like I would never categorize this as like a sunny lead. Although
Mm.
now that I see it, I am like, oh yeah, like he's supposed to be,
Yeah.
the main guy.
For me, it's an Amrish Puri movie.
It is definitely,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's
definitely.
Rajiv Rai and Amrish Puri. Those are the main people in this thing. So basically, this whole crime syndicate they have is a family affair.
Yeah.
So Amrish Puri is called Papaji by his wayward sons, but they also call him Papaji when they're doing like arms deals. They're like buying arms from people. It's like Papaji is like this, Papaji is like that. I was like, what is going on? And then Dan Noah will call Tej Sapru Bhai Saab also, which is like also very funny. And then
So
It's
that
like
that
Anupam
no,
Kher and Aloknath in Naam Aapke.
yeah,
that's so interesting about this film, because so many things about this film point to it being from a completely different time. Like
Hmm.
there's so many things. Like one is this, like the fact that he says bhai sahab
yeah.
to his brother, which is like, who says that? But the other thing is like when Sunny is interrogating Vijendra Ghatke, and he says like, तुम्हारी एक बहन है, like what will happen when she finds out that you are a bad guy, and then immediately goes, 10 साल के बाद जब तुम बाहर आओगे तो वो कोठे पे होगी, 10 रुपए में बिक
That's-
रही होगी.
Rupee mein, I was like, what is inflation? 10 rupees? Like,
Bro, why can't she find a job? Why is she
Yeah.
directly going into prostitution?
Yeah.
What is this?
it was prostitution or suicide. That was the option
Yeah.
Sunny Deol was giving Vijendra Ghatke, who's playing an arms dealer in this movie, where you see his face and you say, this man is not an arms dealer.
Yeah. And then you find out that the Behan is Sangeeta Bijlani, who has her own plan. Like, she's thought 5 steps ahead of Vijendra Ghatke. And you're like, you are the fool.
Yeah, she seems like, and the funny part is she does choose some sort of prostitution, I think, like from her own volition.
Yeah.
It's not, but it's like it's complicated, guys. It's
Mhm.
complicated. And I was like, wait, when Sunny Deol was talking about it, it felt like it was kind of an Andhi Behan Vidwa Ma
Uh-huh.
situation, but it's 80s model Sangeeta Bijlani. She's like, she knows what's up, but she's wearing a shalwar kameez at the start, so maybe
Yeah.
she is a bit of Andhi Behan. She's Andhi Behan coded.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, so and also you have the guy, he's Rajesh Vivek, who's playing his Chacha Ji. So there's also the Chacha Ji involved, who's Gunga, right? So it is kind of like a whole family affair going on. Then Jackie Shroff and Madhuri are siblings.
Our brothers and sisters, yeah.
So that's also going on.
And
then
they are the kids of Anupam Kher, who is the senior of Sunny Deol. Sunny Deol's father is a judge.
Yeah.
And then what else? There's Raza Murad, who is an accomplice of Amrish Puri, and he's a politician, and he's the father of Sonam, who is
Who
the
is
actress.
Sonam, the actress who is maybe being engaged to one of Amrish Puri's
Yeah.
sons. So
And-
all of
Yeah, and they have to choose who is the one who gets
and
engaged.
Raza Murad chooses this on the fly at a party. He's
Yeah.
like, akkad bakkad bambe bo.
Dulha to goga hi hoga.
I just want to go skip ahead because later on, when Raza Murad has the flip and they bring out Sonam, like, and Gudu Dhanwa Dan Dhanwa then says, I will do to your daughter what my son couldn't do to her. Clearly implicating rape, but he was getting married. This was not like a legit, like, these men have their, sexualities really screwed up. Like, what can you do with them? Yeah. A lot of rape threats in the 80s for sure. Let's break down these three storylines because I think that might be the best way to do it. I want to go to the Sunny Madhuri last because I do think that is kind of the main storyline. So let's get into maybe Sonam and Naseer first.
Okay.
Because I do think Tirchi Topi Wale was like the biggest thing, and I think that's how people connect. You were asking earlier, Amrita, which print did I see this in? I watched it on YouTube in the most clear print I have ever seen in my life.
That's the one that I've seen as well. I'm so shocked.
To the point, I realized watching this movie, I never understood that Sonam as an actress was a very pretty lady. I didn't know. Like, she was always like there, like she was one of those actresses that was around. I was watching her on this, I was like, oh my god, she's beautiful. I did not know this. It was just because the print was finely clear that I could see her face. It was a shock to me, and this plot, I was like thinking about this plot. Isn't this plot very similar to Hero Hira Lal also, like a movie that Naseeruddin Shah ended up making much later on? So they basically, Sonam is an actress in the movie. She's shooting a song and Naseer shows up, and then they end up she has an idea that this is going to be a hit song, which it is. They sing Tirchi Topi Wale. They end up falling in love, kind of, right? And then we realize that he's like also some sort of gunda or something like that. Amrita, you were saying you don't agree with him being a dacoit, right?
No, he's so he describes himself as a baghi, or
a rebel.
Sunny Deol describes him as a baghi, right? Because he's sort of like the village do-gooder. So like if
it's Robin Hood Pandey.
Robin Hood Pandey. That is what is happening. But this was years before Salman Khan, so like nobody knew that was a good thing to be. And he basically sees Sonam shooting for this movie where she's being hassled by a bunch of goons, and he steps in to save her. Like, that's his introduction scene where he's like trying to save Sonam, and that immediately establishes credentials, right? Like, he will save the honor of the pretty girl. And then he's also being good to the gaon ki maa and her abla beti and everything. And then starts so it starts with him getting into a fight with Sunny Deol, and then the two of them becoming like bros.
Speed track
To,
friendship. It
yes.
goes so fast, it goes so fast.
It
It's
is.
the very Amar and Anthony trope, right? From
Very
Manmohan
coded.
Desai.
Yeah, that fight was all very Amitabh, Vinod Khanna
Vinod.
coded. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Except to a creepy level where you are just
Yeah.
like, I'm not entirely comfortable
Yeah.
with this friendship. Um, yeah. So does that answer your question? I can't remember
And
what
then
it was.
also there's the backstory of him, right? That he
Mhm.
had
Yes.
a very, very old dad. Like he had a very old, he was a small kid. His dad was very, very old. And I don't know where the mom was. And he's the kind of guy, you see his dad's face and ye baap marega. He's very like le shapat agnipat coded.
Oh God.
And then Dagu Bhairo Singh, Amrish in his older version comes and kills him and then laughs in the face of the child, I killed your
No,
dad.
so there are like multiple things that happen over there. Okay, so first of all, what is that thing that he's taking from the dad? Like, why does he kill the dad? Why
I
does
don't
I think
Bhairo
he
know.
Singh?
was a witness to a murder or something, and he was the only one who was standing up to Bhairav.
Yeah, okay. So
And
there
then
was
before
something
he was going to
because
testify, he was getting killed,
The
basically.
because
village justice,
Bhairo
basically.
Yeah.
because Bhairo calls it a betrayal, and I was like, how is it a betrayal? Was your freedom fighter dad in cahoots with
Yeah.
Bhairo? Like, what is happening? And then so Bhairo kills the dad and then tells some random like guy that's there, ki, like, hey Ramu, you taking the blame for this, okay?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
why does Ramu have to take the fall for it? There's no reason. But anyway, Ramu takes the fall, and then this kid has watched everything, and then the local Thanedar is Anupam Kher before he
Yeah.
became the police commissioner, who just sort of like comes in and says, so like we'll cremate the guy that's dead and we're going to take this guy to jail. And the poor little kid is like, but that guy didn't murder my dad. Like my dad was
Yeah.
killed by this other guy. And Anupam Kher is like, okay. And then
Yeah.
just like leaves the kid there and fucks off.
Everybody just leaves the kid there. And this what I just found funny is that the kid is small, but the kid is talking coherently. He's telling Anupam Kher doesn't give a shit. He's like, I'm out. Okay, duty.
Like I immediately was just like, oh yeah, so Anupam Kher is a shit police officer. I get it.
Yeah.
As well as being a shit dad.
Yeah. That's how
And a
he
shit.
became a commissioner, right? You have to be
Yeah.
a shit police officer and a
Yeah.
shit dad to become a police
That's how you
commissioner.
climb the ladder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and now for some reason, after all of this, clearly like the entire village abandoned, Naseeruddin Shah, whose dad was literally the master G. And so
Yeah.
he grows up into like Tirchi Topi Wale.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think Sonam necessarily has any storyline here.
No.
She's just kind of like background. I don't think she even has like major dialogue or stuff like that.
Her story is that the director is her husband. That is the
Yeah,
story.
they ended up getting married, right? Like, yeah. So that's kind of the first couple. Then the second couple
By the way, Hero Hiralal was released a year earlier.
earlier. Okay, maybe
Yeah.
they then took it from there. They're like, ye nahi chali, like, let's condense this a little
Yeah.
bit,
And put in a banger song.
Yeah, needed a banger song. Yeah. I think also I think this is one of those movies that ended up allowed Naseeruddin Shah to buy a house with this kind of movie, because he was making some commercial movies, but this was the only massive hit he had.
Yeah.
Nothing else really worked. Otherwise,
I wonder how he remembers this movie. Does he remember this fondly, or does he like, this was my paycheck movie? I don't know.
No, who made that quote? Who's the guy? I'm blanking on the name. The guy that's the Alfred in the Batman Nolan movies.
Michael Caine.
Yeah, Michael Caine. He was asked like, "Do you remember?" He was in Jaws 4 or 5, and he was like, "Do you remember the movie?" He's like, "I don't remember the movie, but I remember the house that the movie, made me buy." So I think that's what Naseer is probably thinking,
Yeah.
and like it made my house. So, yeah. So I think we're done with that storyline, right?
Uh-huh.
Nothing important. Then so we have the Jackie and Sangeeta. Sangeeta or Sangeeta? How do you? What's it?
Sangeeta.
Sangeeta, right? That storyline, which is, they are like the oddest pairing in this movie.
Yeah.
Like Jackie is basically Anupam Kher's son, and he seems to be kind of like a Arjun Reddy kind of guy. Like he gets into fights, and he's like he can't see an injustice, and he deals with it his own way, and that he clashes with his dad. They've got like a little bit of a Shakti vibe going on there,
yeah.
like that kind of thing. Like, oh, my dad only focuses on the law, and he doesn't care about me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
When Madhuri gets kidnapped, he's the one that goes and saves her, and then he decides to infiltrate Amrish Puri's gang, and then take it from inside.
Yeah.
While on the same side, Sangeeta is also having her quest to avenge her brother. I keep telling you the plot, and I feel so ridiculous saying these words.
ये भी हुआ था. ये भी हुआ था.
But she's also being aided by Shekhar Suman.
The worst timed reporter of all time.
Yeah, he is the manifestation of WikiLeaks, basically. Like, he's सारी news leak कर देता है ये बंदा.
और गलत आदमी को लीक कर देता है वो.
Yeah,
Sharat Saxena is just around the corner listening to everything, and he's just like, ये भी हुआ था. But कमिश्नर साहब, मैं कल बताऊंगा, मैं मरने के बाद कल बताऊंगा, not today. तो आप आराम से सो, आज रात आराम से सो, मैं कल आता हूँ.
all of the revelations are in this movie are somebody standing behind the corner and hears them talk, and they all talk very loudly. There's no codes, there's no nothing like that. And Shekhar Suman is also watching it. I was like, man, Shekhar Suman is a terrible actor. I didn't remember this either.
Yeah.
Because the only thing I remember him from is Dekh Bhai Dekh and his talk show. Those are the two things I remember him from. But watching him in this, he was like, oh, he's horrible in this. Like, he's really, really bad.
Speaking of people hiding behind curtains, there's a particular scene where Naseeruddin hears his Raza Murad talking to people about arms dealing, and then he goes to Sonam and sort of reveals everything. And Sonam's like, no, you're jealous. I'm engaged to somebody else now, so you are just making shit up against them. What the hell is happening? And just Naseeruddin just happened to walk into their living room and just hear behind the curtains. It's just...
I do like that the transition, because he's supposed to be Sonam's bodyguard. So at the start he's like like he's got the whole pagdi on and he's got like a walking stick, and then later on he's dressed like Don Johnson in Miami Vice, like, white suits and pastels, sleeves up, like that kind of like Chandler Bing and Friends. It's really, really cool. So that's going on, and they also suddenly fall in love, which I was like, when did this happen?
That whole गली गली में फिरता हूँ, just तेरा प्यार है एक सोने का चिड़िया. That the whole thing, like, when did that happen? Like, like, मैं तो आजाद पंछी हूँ, मैं उड़ना चाहता हूँ, and all of that. Like, when is this Sangeeta like confess her love? And I don't know. Yeah,
it's like, like he literally joins the gang 3 minutes ago. Sangeeta is immediately like,
when you think about it, if you were in a gang with Amrish Puri, Dan Dhanoa and Tej Sapru, and then Jackie Shroff walks in from the 80s, who are you gonna choose?
Sure.
True.
Yeah.
But what is Sangeeta's job? What is she doing there? Like,
She's the featured entertainment. She's like the lounge singer.
In their lair. She's a lair lounge
She's
singer.
a lair
Her
singer.
job is beach.
Because she's also giving advice to Amrish Puri. She's like, ye anjana jo dushman paida ho gaya. That kind of thing. She's also giving like strategic advice to him. So I was like, what's going on? But then later on, there's the scene, they have the thing, and then Mr. Don, the Deep Dial, wants to like, have her ways with her, and she's like not having it, because she's like, a traditional girl, obviously. So I was like, what's the job? Like, what's the job description here exactly?
Yeah.
But it also just made me think of this, like, this is completely out of By the way, guys, I'm fasting, and there's a big chance this movie might break my fast, like Rosa Tordegi movie.
Not only Rosa Tordegi, but like Asim's gonna be living to drink by the end of recording this thing.
But I was like, like there's this idea of having one woman dance around you, and you have like 7,000 men around.
Yeah.
It's just such a weird thing. Like, what are we doing here? Like, what are you getting out of this? Like,
What
This
are
is
you
what
getting
happened
out
when there was no internet, basically.
yeah. It's so, like when you were talking about Naseeruddin Shah in Tirchi Topiwale, I was like, what is the modern day equivalent? It's probably Pankaj Tripathi in Aaj Ki Raat.
Yeah.
That's the kind of equivalent, and that also had the one woman surrounded by 7,000 men vibe, which is like, yeah, it's such a weird thing, like. Because she's like in the arms of one guy, then she's in the arm of the son, then in the arms of like, what's going on? What is the end goal here? Like, I don't know.
Caring is caring, I guess.
Yeah, it's just a weird thought I had, which I was like,
It's a movie produced by Gulshan Rai, directed by Rajiv Rai.
it's a family affair through and through. It's a family affair. Yes, and then we have the main Tridev. I think the top of the Tridev, right?
Mhm.
Like these are the side prongs. This is the
Yeah.
main prong.
Yeah.
This is Sunny Deol and Madhuri Dixit in this. Watching Madhuri Dixit in this, I thought this is what Deepika was in Houseful 1. Do you remember Deepika was in Houseful 1? Does anybody still
No.
remember that?
No.
Yeah, so this nobody remembers that Madhuri was in Tridev,
Yeah.
and you know that this woman is way better than everybody.
Yeah.
She's way beyond everything else. She's the best here, and she is just slumming it in this movie, exactly like Deepika was in Houseful 1 too.
Yeah.
Um,
I had specific notes about it saying, I can't believe they made Madhuri on the same level as Sangeeta Bijlani and Sonam in that Gajar Ne Kiya Hai Ishara song. Like, they are all at the same level entertaining, as item girls. It's insane. Like, how much of a flower pot role is this? Unwritten. Like, I don't know when the dialogues were written or not, and they just let Madhuri rip.
So apparently, this movie was she signed this before Tezab, so she had not Tezab had not released, and then Tezab released, and then the last song, Gajar Ne Kiya Ishara, they changed the routine and put Madhuri in front, where
Right.
Sonam was supposed to be front first, and Madhuri is like immediately 100 times better dancer than everybody. And I was like looking at her and I was like, yeah, she's in a lair. She's been kidnapped, but she's kind of having fun dancing, It's like, it's Madhuri.
Yeah.
She's just like lost herself in the dance. She's having a fun time, Yeah, so she's like the very like traditional kind of girl, right? Like she has an arranged marriage with Sunny Deol. They're immediately in love. And Sunny Deol has a lot of anger in this movie. He's like been angry from the start to the end, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of Sunny Deol in this movie, Amrita?
I do hate Sunny Deol. Like I'm like or like this era of Sunny Deol.
Sultan will have a word with you, Amrita. What do you mean by you don't hate Sunny Deol?
Like like the 80s were probably his best decade. I think like he did like a lot of stuff in the 80s that were legitimately good. Like I've said this before, about Sunny. And most people don't agree, but that's another story. But this is not one of those things. Like he's not like it's a very it's a very routine character, which is sort of Rajiv Rai's speciality, to be honest. So he's not, and he doesn't have the campiness of Naseeruddin Shah, because like we spoke about like Naseeruddin Shah being that character being somewhat of a nothing burger, but Nasir is like a good enough actor to be able to pitch himself to a point where he is memorable, and like I said, Jackie and Sangeeta were just beautiful people, and they had all that glamour going for them.
Oh, for sure.
so well
But
dressed. Like they were like all of their looks were like looking, like they
yeah,
were like this is a cool jacket. Like Jackie had this, he was wearing this dupatta from Madhuri, like a pop of
yeah.
color. Like I was like, this is a look, man.
Yeah.
I remember that dupatta. Like I
Yeah.
haven't seen this movie since it came out, and I remember that dupatta and like that, and that also that it was his sister's dupatta that he's wearing around his neck. Like that was just that little oomph, to
And
like
I
Yeah.
feel
not
that was
just
like a Jackie Shroff touch. Like he decided
yeah,
to do this on his own, and it
yeah.
looked really cool. He had these cut off gloves that he was wearing on this military jacket. I was like, this is actually really cool. Like he looks good.
Well,
Meanwhile,
sadly, he carries now a pot of
a
plant
pot of
everywhere. The Jackie touch.
but both Madhuri and Sunny were just so pika in this. Like they're so boring.
You
Even
know,
the parts where Sunny Deol is like angry and like yelling, and why is he angry? First of all, like I don't understand why
Well,
he's
his
angry.
father died. His
I mean,
father.
later on, I understand, but why is he angry before that? Where he's telling people that their sister is going to end up becoming a prostitute. Like, why?
Yeah.
10 rupee prostitute. Please
Oh,
specify
God.
price also.
But what did you guys think of Sunny Paji?
I thought honestly, like I think nobody was convinced this movie will work. It feels like they were not putting, like, you've seen Sunny Deol. He can act. He's done better movies before this. Here he's like almost like in a high school play. Like back in the day, you used to have these muhrats where they would have just Nariyal, and then they do
Yeah.
one dialogue of the movie, and
Yeah,
they don't
yeah,
know
yeah.
what the movie is yet, so they just kind of freestyle it on stage. That's the level of acting Sunny Deol is bringing to it. Like it's really really odd that the
So
whole
it's like the whole question of talent then of Rajiv Rai to put and stage a movie all together coherently. It's pretty much that it's a sequence of scenes that don't make any sense. Like if you separate them, it just feels like it falls apart altogether. But somehow it's a super hit movie that they made miraculously. And sometimes it works, sometimes it totally doesn't.
I think that we can break down why this movie worked though, because there's a few elements. The music, first of all, like
Yeah.
we can,
Yeah.
we'll talk about the individual songs later on, but I think music, I think the pacing, I think it goes really, really quickly, even though it's 2 hours, 50 minutes long.
It's
And
non-stop.
yeah, it's non-stop. You go one thing, it's really really fast paced. I think the other thing we do, and you mentioned this earlier, this is Gulshan Rai producing his son's movie. They spend a buttload of money. You can see that they spent a lot of money. They brought in a lot of like the explosions that they have of
Yeah.
these, it's like massive scaled explosions that they kind of put in, and very
Yeah.
dangerous. Like there's a moment where both in one scene, Sunny Deol is walking away from explosions as the cool guy does, and
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
another
yeah.
explosion where there's in the climax, everybody's throwing hand grenades to Amrish Puri's lair, and Amrish Puri is running for his
Across the
life.
bridge. Yeah.
Yeah, while explosions are going around, and both Sunny Deol and Amrish Puri are scared for their lives. You can see it in their
Yeah.
eyes that the explosions are way too big. But also a lot of the shots that they've taken, I feel, that's I talked about that scene where Sangeeta Bijlani sees Jackie Shroff for the first time, and you see her lips, which is
Yeah.
like a very 80s lipstick design. Amrita, you might know this more, but that's what it
Mhm.
feels like to me. And then you have like superimposed Jackie kind of coming in, and then they also have this sequence where they're like looking at the face, and you see the face in close up, and then in the background, and all of these things that's like, yeah, that's quite cool. Like cool shots, like for the 80s, like it's very basic when you look at it now, but I think for that time it just felt very very fresh. So I think that's probably, and also just the fact of having all of these actors together, I think that's
Yeah.
like the multi-starrer was a big thing in the 80s, which kind of
Yeah.
died down in the 90s, because you had proper stars like Salman, Shah Rukh, and Amir that could just carry the movie on their own, which is insane. Like here you had to bring in 3 people.
Or 6 people.
Yeah, 6 people. Yeah. So I think those are probably the elements of why that is. We do need to break down Sunny's story a little bit, though, because I think a lot is going on here, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh my God. Yes.
first of all, he gets framed for by lawyers, basically by a judge, by his own dad, right? So which
Yeah.
is again very Mary Jung coded. We have his dad is the judge and he's getting sentenced. I was like, there's no like, conflict of interest here.
Yeah.
Like he's judging his own son. But yeah, the lawyer who's played by, who is the lawyer? It's the guy
Ajit
from,
Bachchani.
right.
Yeah.
He clearly comes from the Thakral school of law.
Yeah.
Just makes up stories, and Sunny is very, very dumb. Like, he has no
Yeah.
arguments for these elaborate lies that are being told in court. He gets basically sent to the same village where all of this thing happened with the Naseeruddin Shah back in the day.
Mhm.
And then they murder him, basically, right?
Yeah.
Who?
The bad guys basically
Yeah,
murdered
Yeah,
him,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Vigilance,
Yeah.
Dawn.
But before
Dawn
that, they kill his father, the
Oh,
judge, and
yeah,
frame it as a suicide. And he's
Right.
like, "Oh my god, my father died out of guilt and everything like that." You
Yeah.
know, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
because again, not the brightest bulb in the box.
No, he's very dumb. He's very dumb, and also like I find it hilarious because he has this nightmare in his bed, like And I was like, I don't know if it's a nightmare or he just has really dirty sheets and he's like, Then he wakes up and his hands are tied.
and there's Dalip Tahil sat in front.
Dalip Tahil, Dan Dinoa, Jackie Shroff are all there. Imagine like there is a moment where you're thinking, what are they planning to do with me?
There's this reel that I don't know if you guys have seen, but there's this Bombay influencer called Bansha, and he had this reel on his account which is called like unexpected male sexual tension, where it's just these two guys on like a Bombay local, and they're just sort of like cuddled up against each other, and they're just like, oh my god, bahut bheed hai na, bahut bheed hai, and then the camera pans out and it's just the two of them in an empty compartment. And I feel like this movie is full of that. It's just like a whole bunch of men sort of like leering at each other in these very strange and exotic locations and situations. Yeah.
So then they decide to burn his house.
But
And they're
just
like
before that-
spreading the kerosene everywhere. It's like that. They
Yeah.
are so undisciplined. It felt like that scene in Zoolander where they're like jitterbug. Kerosene everywhere, and then they just light it up. And then Jackie Shroff, obviously, because he's playing both sides, he throws a knife at him, at Sunny Deol, but he throws it too far.
And Sunny's like, Kutte, I need help here.
Yeah, I was confused there in this moment. Wait, is he torturing him that the knife
Yeah.
you can't reach it?
Hunting him like just before his death.
Yeah. So then he dies.
And
Then he-
Madhuri's in shock.
Yeah. So then he comes up like, like in this movie Narsimha, he kind of breaks from the thing
Yeah.
again and he's standing there.
Damn, what a reference, Asim.
And then for the rest of the movie, he wears a fake mustache.
And nobody recognizes him.
Nobody recognizes him.
Not even his best friend Naseeruddin Shah.
It is the most low effort disguise that at one point, like Nasir is sitting right next to him because he's pretending to be a cab driver. And the way that he escapes detection is by throwing up his elbow over his face.
Yeah. He just goes like that. Like that. That's
Like, if you got into a cab and the driver just put his entire arm over his eyes, how would you feel?
No.
and the two things funny part about the mustache is why didn't he go for a beard? Like why stop at the mustache? First of all, because the rest of the movie, all three heroes have mustaches. That just looks weird. But then after everybody knows that he's Sunny Deol, he still wears the mustache. It's like, I like this look now. This is me. My uncle used to call this the Sharminda mooch. Like the mooch is Sharminda and you're Sharminda because this is your mooch.
Okay. I thought you did something that you have to be, sharamnak about. That's why you are wearing the Sharminda mustache.
It was hilarious, man. I just I couldn't with that mustache, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, he exacts his revenge at the end. Basically,
Yeah.
that's basically the story, or how much we can kind of like rein in what the story is about.
Yeah.
Let's talk a bit about the music here. We talked a bit about like
Tirsi Topi Wale.
yeah. Like this movie was this song was such a big hit. I didn't remember that this had a male verse in it. Like I just remember the female version, like the female verse in it. I didn't remember there was like a Bibi Bholi Bali in it too.
Yeah. Sung by Amit Kumar.
Yeah. Then
and there is a sad version as well,
which was hilarious, man. Isn't that hilarious? Like, because the sad version is great because it has my favorite trope: is a party song where everybody is standing, two people are singing, and nobody knows what they're singing about.
So much tension, so much gossip,
and it's also just hilarious that they're doing a sad version of Tirchi Topi Wale. It's like, this is not a song that you can do. It's like, what else can we do a sad version of? Can we do a sad version of Uchi Hai Building? Can we do a sad version of Hookah Bar? Like how do you...
Or Sheila Ki Jawani?
Yeah. I couldn't stop laughing.
Tere haath kabhi na aani.
Yeah, sad. Like, it's so sad. Even Yunus Parvez is he's crying in the background, right? He's like, so sad.
And they bring back Yunus Parvez in the climax as well.
Yes.
And he's wearing a fake police costume to
to fool the people, I guess.
Villains,
but so many things about the villains, like when they're murdering the politician right up in the beginning, and is it who is it? Is it like Dandanoa who's the cook? Who is it that?
Yes, he's the cook. Yeah, he infiltrates as the cook.
And he goes up and he like pretends to be this politician's cook, and then like he goes and he has this into the Superman booth and like calls the house, and then the politician picks up the phone and the house like explodes. And I'm like, but you were the cook and they were all eating your food. Why didn't you just poison them?
They weren't eating his food. They absolutely loved his food. He's like, this is the best cook ever. He's like, Dad, and he's been cooking for like weeks. Like, he's been making these amazing dishes and all.
Yeah.
You had like a perfect way to like murder these people, but then no, like I'm going to put explosives everywhere. Yeah. I'm gonna go out of the house. I'm gonna call them. I'm just like, why?
Rajiv Rai loves an explosion, man. He just loves to explode things. I think that was literally the only reason to it. That scene was hilarious. That was hilarious.
Coming back to the music.
Yeah, let's get back to the music.
What's your favorite song?
My favorite song is Main Teri Mohabbat Mein. It's a song I actually still listen to be honest. And I don't know if it's because Madhuri is in there, probably like 90% of the time. I think it's a sweet song. I don't know. I like that song.
I think like when Ghayal 2 was getting released, Sunny Deol made an appearance, to promote the movie on Jhalak Dikla Ja, and Madhuri was one of the judges, and they made them dance to or sort of slowly saunter to like Main Teri Mohabbat Mein. It was so embarrassing, and Sunny Deol actually said like, movie promote karne ke liye kya karna padta hai.
Oh my god.
It was so bad. Yeah,
like there are worse things to do than dance with Madhuri, to be honest. Yeah. Like what are you on about, Sunny?
And Sunny Deol dancing with Madhuri. Yeah. Oh my god.
But I mean, there's not much dancing in that song, to be honest. They're mostly just walking.
So Amrita, what's your favorite?
Yeah, I really really like Main Teri Mohabbat Mein, but for the longest time I would just glaze right over that song. Like this was the time of the cassettes and stuff, and I would just fast forward that song. Because when you were a kid and there's like, Gajar ne kya hai ishara, and there's gali gali mein phirta hai and everything, that's what you're listening to. You're not really listening to this song.
And also, this song I actually started liking much later, and I didn't know
Yeah.
which movie it was from. I heard it, I
Oh.
think, maybe on a T series mixtape or something like that when
Yeah.
they mix songs together. And I was like, this is actually a good song. And then I found it, and I was like, oh, it's from Tridev. And I would not have known that if it was
Hmm.
Madhuri in it or it was Meenakshi in it. Like, I would not have known,
Hmm.
or, Dimple. Could have been any of
Uh,
those. So, yeah.
yeah. So I think my favorite is Gali Gali Mein
Gali
Phirta
Gali,
Hai.
yeah. It's so
Yeah.
That
good.
it's like such a good song. Like I like everything about it, like the way that they shot it was also sort of like psychedelic. There's like those superimposed images of Jackie and Sangeeta Bijlani and stuff. I love the way that Sangeeta's fashion in this movie was, a
Hmm.
dream. Like she was every inch the runway model, and she didn't look like anybody else on screen at the time.
Yeah.
The way she was dressed in this song, and that hat with the like the with the thing like in Gajan ne kiya hai ishara and everything, it was all like so perfect. I loved the way the Sangeeta looked in this film. And yeah, she was really like a real life Barbie doll for me.
Yeah.
And Gali Gali Mein Phirta Hai was it was really easy choreography because Sangeeta couldn't dance and neither could Jackie. But it was also a really catchy beat. Um,
Yeah.
but the other one, like Raat Bhar Jam Se, that's also, and that's Alicia Chinoy. That's
Hmm.
Hmm.
such a good song. Um,
Is that one of her
but
first songs in Bollywood?
I think
I,
so.
I can't
No, I
remember.
think Zubi Zubi has come by
Oh,
then.
okay.
So that was like a long time ago.
I
Um,
just also just love the start of Gully Gully, like the
Yeah.
when you have all the villains doing the shoulder dance, like that's a
Mhm.
yeah.
meme, right? And it is like the best thing. Like that you need to contact HR. This is not a safe place to work.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Damn. Even the soundtrack is like saying Kuch Gadbad hai boss. Ting, 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 din, 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 din. And then like, oh, tension's rising, man.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
My favorite is Gajar Ne Kiya Hai Ishara.
Mm.
Like it's got Alka Yagnik, Sadhana Sargam, and Sapna Mukherjee all together. Like oe tongue. It's like the Undertaker theme.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's that. It's crazy.
The thing I also like about this is that you get a lot of like Amrish Puri reaction
Mhm.
shots in between. He's like
Yeah.
winking and he's doing things, and then he gets a verse. He also gets to do his oe oe, which is the thing is what I'm realizing more and more. We've watched now 3 back-to-back
Mhm.
Amrish Puri movies,
Yeah.
right? We've done Nagina, we've done Meri Jang, we've done Tridev.
Tridev.
Amrish Puri just loves dance. He
Yeah.
just enjoys it. He's a dance aficionado. Like,
Yeah.
he just enjoys it, he just join in. He'll go to a concert, he'll watch it, he'll watch like a sapir and that kind of thing.
He hires Sangeeta Bijlani just for the sake of entertainment.
Yeah.
Like, alag se department khol diya. Before Sangeeta, there was nothing like that in their
Yeah.
lair.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
that in the beginning. There was that girl, like he just says Lakshmi, and then this girl shows up in a crop top, and like this is the most ill-fitting, like
Yeah.
unflattering crop top and skirt, and she's just standing there with her hands like clasped like an uncle G going for her evening walk while Dawn is saying like creepy things. And then like Sangeeta shows up, and obviously like she's so much better than like all the other people around. He's like, I shall invest in the arts and like keep her here as the featured entertainment.
Yeah, I was like, no, I don't want to say this. I was gonna say something, but it would be terrible to the actress playing that part because clearly,
Yeah.
like, Amrish Puri has like A level mal and B level mal, and he's just like discounting stuff to Dawn. Like it's
Yeah.
like we also have Sangeeta here. I also like that this is also the era where there is no subtlety to the lyrics. Like the
Mhm.
lyrics of Gajar are basically y'all are about to get effed. Basically, that's what the girls are singing. Yeah, they're coming.
Yeah.
The guys are coming. You're gonna get effed in the A. That's it.
F'd in the A.
I'm fasting, guys. I'm fasting.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah. This is it's a wild movie, man.
I
Are
have
there
some
any?
random notes.
Yeah, I want to hear your random notes. I have a few too. Yeah.
Okay, the worst bank heist mask ever, where they are just literally wearing the flimsiest stockings as their face mask. People get shot in the ass for comic
Comedy
reasons.
purposes. It's the
Yeah,
opposite of the bank heist in Heat. It's
yeah.
stunned. It's stunned.
Or as with the Indians, a thandi.
And only
uh,
this is the point that Nasir recognizes Sunny, by the way. Like
uh,
he's been seeing him like for the last 40 minutes, and now
yeah.
he's like, oh, ye mera dost hai.
And then obviously the Yunus Pervez coming back as the fake police officer. In the climax, they have the grenades and they put it in an actual bamboo ki tokdi. like बाजार से wholesale में खरीद के लेके आए ऐसे दिवाली बाजार से. It's just random as crazy. The Amrish Puri running over the bridge, that crazy stunt with the explosion, perfect. They say Nesto Nabud a lot of times. And Sunny Deol loves to introduce himself as Pehchana Kon? Pehchana Mujhe? Pehchana Mujhe? He says that like 5-6 times,
And
Pehchana
nobody
Mujhe.
recognizes him. Nobody. He left no mark.
Yeah. Then at the end, once they are all being arrested, Nasiruddin's like, "Mere papa ka medal le lo tum." Le lo tum. It's like Oprah Winfrey. Like,
I
you get a
remember
medal,
that
you get a
scene.
medal.
I
Yeah.
remember that scene so much. Like, like it's just like burnt into my memory that like Nasiruddin is just like I've never found anyone who deserves my father's medals. But
Yeah.
now I have found two other Devs to my Dev. So we can be three Dev together.
Yeah.
They really
And
cushion that
then,
name, by the way. Like they
mhm.
really like
Yeah,
Ab se hum three. It's like a high school band. Like call us this now.
Three musketeers. Hum three
Yeah.
musketeers.
Yeah.
That's basically. And then the whole reveal of that, Jackie Shroff is actually the mole in their gang. It's basically a standoff, right? Everybody's pointing fingers, pointing guns at each other, and Jackie Shroff's like, haha, I'll get you in the last. I laughed so much in that one. Oh, dear.
For me, it was the fact that Madhuri Dixit is basically the worst character alive because she gets kidnapped twice by the same
Yeah.
person. I'm like, Behan, kuch to seek. Like, how are you this bad at being alive?
Yeah.
Also, her
And
mom threatens. The only dialogue is like, "I'm gonna commit suicide." Like, तुमने ये नहीं किया, मैं अपने आप को मार दूंगी. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Which is accurate.
Which is very
Which is
accurate.
accurate for Desi moms to a certain degree.
and then there's this scene where Sunny's character is being sent off to the his punishment posting or something because he's been proven a liar, and he basically doesn't even break up with Madhuri himself. He just gives the ring to Anupam Kher and it's just like, bata dena. This is too much for me. And I am like, what? And then Madhuri comes and she's like, are you leaving? And he's like, yep. And she's like, but it's not that easy. And I'm like, what kind of dialogues are these?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I also noticed that Madhuri is the one who actually gets a line of dialogue in the climax, like post climax, when the police have finally arrived and everyone's got their little speeches. Madhuri is the only one of the women to actually have a piece of dialogue, whereas everyone else, just sort of stands around.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I had a few. I mean, this is like these are the things that were unintentionally funny bits. Like there were a lot of moments where I was watching it and I had to laugh really, really loudly in this movie. So here are my nominations for this. Yeah, the sad version of Tirchi Topi Wale. I've discussed this. Sunny's mustache. We've discussed this. Oh yeah. So when when Naseeruddin Shah comes into the city. He finds Sonam because her wallet is getting stolen by a guy who's roller skating on bare naked feet.
Yeah. कभी लिंकिंग रोड के पार्ट
बस socks नहीं है Lincoln Road पे like no shoes, no socks, bare feet. Then so Sunny Deol's dad is a judge, and everybody walks into his house. Amrish Puri is there. Everybody is there. They just walk in. Vijendra Ghatke is there. You know, there's no security, no whatsoever. Thought that was hilarious. Naseeruddin Shah has like a big ass Suryavanshi sword in the climax for no reason suddenly, which I thought was hilarious. In the climax also, Madhuri Dixit is throwing hand grenades in Shalwar Kameez. Which is so funny. She even pulls out the hairpin. And you know, Madhuri, when she does anything, she fully commits, you know.
Yeah, and it looks like she's eating chikus. You know?
Exactly. It actually, those grenades could have been mangoes that they've just colored on top because the size looks very odd, you know.
It's coming in a tokri.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also the final reveal of Amrish Puri, right? Like he's gone to become Bhujang, but for the final scene, he's like coming back as the avatar of Bhairav, Daku Bhairav, and he wears these like bullet thingies for no reason.
I had a note for that. I was like, why is Amrish Puri dressed as like American Robin Hood? Because he's like literally wearing the Sherwood Forest thing where he's wearing these brown leggings and a green tunic, but then he's got also like two bullet things, like I don't belts that are crisscrossing across his chest, and I'm just like, why? Why is he dressed like
It's that Sean Connery look, right?
Exactly. That's what I was Googling which movie that was from because I couldn't like figure out what it was. Zardos.
Zardos.
It's like Zardos in this. I
He
did also
doesn't
learn.
dress like that at all during the rest of the movie, by the way.
No.
It's only in the climax.
Yeah. He brought out his war gear basically, you know.
Like Rajiv Rai basically saw Zardos the week before he shot that, and he was like, "Costume department, ye karo."
I did also learn something from this movie, a little thing about fashion, guys.
Okay.
So there's a sequence where so random, guys. This is like I might even edit this out. There's a so Jackie Shroff. I've told you he's very stylish in this movie. So there's a sequence where he has his shirt tucked in, but the shirt is tucked in open. Like there's no buttons; they're all open and they're tucked in. And he has a t-shirt and then an overcoat over it. That is called the Ralph Lauren tuck. I did not know this. I thought I would convey this information about fashion to you guys.
Wow.
It's called the Ralph Lauren tuck. When you tuck in your shirt, but the shirt is open basically, and you can see the full t-shirt in it. So that's something that I learned by watching Tridev. So it's not a total loss, this movie.
I think that was a Jackie move rather than a Rajiv Rai move.
100%. Jackie Shroff, he was like, he was grasping for, he was fighting a war against Bhujang and male pattern baldness at this time. And he was compensating with, pop of color and Ralph Lauren tucks. Yeah. He's so cool though, man. He's like the coolest. Out of all of them, he's the coolest. Like he
doesn't even need to try.
Yeah. And he does like odd movement. I don't know about you guys, but he's odd. He's like the way he stands, the way he laughs, the way he's like doing things. It's weird, but it's so cool. Like
he
breaks
the pattern. He breaks the pattern.
Yeah. It has like a weird off rhythm, and it looks really cool. Like even the sequence where the final of Gali Gali Mein, suddenly she's in a big pinjara, like in a big a bird cage, and he walks out of the bird cage and he lifts his hand like it's the Breakfast Club. And it was like, just look cool. I was like, what's going on? It just looks cool. And he hangs. And then even in the freeze frame, because this movie ends, like the most 80s thing, this movie ends in a freeze frame, right? And Jackie looks the coolest. And like Sunny Deol looks like an utter nerd. Nasir looks like he's in the wrong place. Jackie Shroff just owns it. Every frame, every freeze frame. He's the coolest ever. Yeah.
On that note.
Amrita, any final words on Tridev? Should people actually watch this movie? We haven't even discussed it.
So, like, I know that you and Joy had a really tough time getting through this movie. But for me, like, this is what a lot of the 80s movies are like. And it's got enough to make you be interested in what comes next. Like there's no it's sort of like the Manmohan Desai philosophy of filmmaking, which is like at screen pe kuch na kuch to hona chahiye at every
More
single
is more.
point. Yes. So there's no point in the film where you think, oh, like there's nothing happening, or like what might be happening might be ridiculous, and it might be completely stupid, or like enraging, but it is not. It's never just static, and that's basically what this type of cinema from the 80s is best at.
What's also interesting about Tridev is that Rajiv Rai also like refined this movie and remade it basically in Vishwatma, right? Like 3 years
Yeah.
later. Like they're
Yeah.
very, very similar movies, like a lot of the same cast. Like Sat Samandar is in that, like a massive, massive hit too. And yeah, it's slightly elevated. I remember like they go to Kenya or something like that, and they're all wearing mullets and stuff like that, so they kind of use the same formula again. I don't know, do you like Vishwatma more or do you like Tridev more?
I haven't watched Vishwatma in a long time, so I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah,
Right.
me neither. After Kalia, I'm staying away from, calling this my favorite or that my favorite.
Sujoy, final words on Tridev, and should people watch it?
I think people who are new to Bollywood would find it very difficult to sit through this because it's so much randomness happening. People who grew up on the music and want to figure out if this was worth the time, take a chance on it. You might end up liking it, maybe because of the whole nostalgia that is so correlated with the soundtrack. And then there are some cool stuff happening. But overall, I don't think I can strongly recommend watching Tridev.
Yeah. I honestly think you should probably go watch Vishwatma instead than Tridev, because I think he refined the formula a little better. And I think although Vishwatma is 1992, so just not in the 80s, but it's still very 80s coded.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you guys, but I enjoy like this. Like I'll watch a lot of like Hollywood 80s movies that are like not well made, but they're of that era. I'm thinking like Cobra, like
Cobra.
Sylvester
I
Stallone.
knew you were about to say Cobra.
Or even like hard what's that one, Black Rain with Michael Douglas, like these kind of like very like very much stylized of that era. They're not good necessarily, but they're just like fun to watch. So I think in that sense Tridev does have those elements, but it is 3 hours long, man. It's just too long. Like I was really, really struggling. I had to kind of pace myself. Also my sleep timings were off, so I couldn't like commit to it that much, but I planned it out correctly. So the songs are really good, but it's just that I think that the performance is also weak, like there's a lot of like nonsense happening. I think Sunny Deol might be the weakest link in this because he has to kind of hold the movie together, and I just don't think he's committed. There's a scene where he's like he needs to kind of like do a flying kick in the climax, and you see him do the flying kick, but then his eye goes down to see where the pad is, and it's just like one of those little things where I was like, it just takes me out, where you're not fully committed to this, Shah Rukh would have backflipped into it, and
but also like Rajkumar Santoshi would have made that happen.
Yeah, I think Rajkumar Santoshi is a much better director than Rajiv Rai, for sure. I think Rajiv Rai just comes with a lot of bells and whistles. And I think a lot of
bells, whistles, and bombs.
Yeah, exactly.
Explosives.
Yeah, and I think Rajkumar Santoshi is just like a vastly superior filmmaker. Like, he's like one of my favorite filmmakers. So I think that combination just worked much better than this did. So yeah, cool. Sujoy, where can people find you online?
You can find me on all my socials, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky at 93K. You can follow Khandaan Podcast on all our socials at Khandaan Podcast. We are uploading stuff on our YouTube channel, so you can like, share, subscribe, do all the stuff that you do to support us. It's free. So if you like listening to us here, you can also listen to us on YouTube and find our short form and long form content there on YouTube at Khandaan Podcast.
Amrita?
You can find me on Blue Sky and on Twitter at Amrita IQ.
I'm at Asim Bernie. Also, drop us an email at youpodcasting@gmail.com. What are you thinking of the 80s series up until now? I'd love to hear. Like, I got we somebody sent us a very long Twitter thread. I'm not that much on Twitter as much anymore, but we are getting comments on Instagram and stuff like that. Would be good to get an email and get your thoughts about it, because I do think we're 5 movies in. We have 10 more to go. We might do like a little break in the middle.
Yeah.
And just like recap where we're at, So I think at that time would be good to just kind of read some email and some feedback about it. So drop us an email at youpodcasting@gmail.com. Sujoy give you the free option. I will give you the paid option. Come to Patreon, spend some money, support the podcast. That's how we keep going. That's how we keep making content. And we also get you a lot of extra content on Patreon. Amrita she does very good 5-minute recaps, which are always lots of fun. I think next movie is going to be Umrao Jaan, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the one on the list. Amrita is already dreading me watching that movie. But yeah, I'm excited. Thank you for listening. I'm kind of timing it, and maybe would this be our Eid episode then for Umrao Jaan? I think we need a better movie then. Let's see. Anyway, guys, thank you for listening. Thanks for being part of Khandaan, and we'll be back with the new episodes.
Khandaan podcast from the Epiglottis. Papa, are you podcasting again?